Okay, taking a look here at Avery Schexnaydre. Avery taking a look on the left here is Adrian Gonzalez. Avery's a real team player that always gives max effort. Okay, Avery, when I look at his swing, I look at three main areas: what the back leg is doing, what the back arm, or what I like to say the throwing arm, is doing, and really what this front side is doing, which basically includes everything on the front side from the foot all the way up through the eyes. And again, if you look at any of the other videos, especially that student DVD video or the throw the barrel video, you'll know that what I try to map out is a swing that follows the principles of a high level throw, which is what you see in the best professional hitters. Okay, and so we want to see throwing aspects out of that back leg and that back arm, and we really want to hit behind a strong front side. So let's start with the back leg. If you take a look at Adrian here, the back leg has two simple goals. It's got to load, and it's got to laterally or sideways unload in the direction of our target, which is the baseball. Okay, so if you look at Adrian there, when the foot is up, the back leg is loaded. Puts that back leg in a position to unload into the ball, sideways to the ball. The whole reason that players take a stride is to load and unload the back leg. So the stride should involve both a load and an unload of the back leg. Okay, as we see Adrian there, right after that front heel drops, the back leg is unweighted. It's sliding forward a bit, and it's unweighted before and through contact with the baseball. So what we want to see out of that back leg, obviously, is a load and then an unloading or a driving aspect into the front side. So we want to be off of the back and behind the front. So if we take a look here at Avery's back leg, obviously when the foot's in the air, the back leg is loaded. Okay, it's in a position to unload. Okay, but with Avery, I see the foot come down. Okay, and there's not really an unload of the back leg, so his stride doesn't involve both a load and an unload. So he, and again, this is taught quite a bit, where you want to pick it up and put it down, but there's no real driving aspect included. Be like throwing. When you throw, you step. The step allows you to load and unload. So here, I think he's trying to set down with his weight back, and then obviously he's more concerned with turning the back leg instead of driving with it. And so if you look at Adrian, you can see that lateral or sideways driving aspect. The foot's going to slide forward a bit. That's usually, not always, evidence of what it's really the femur here, of what the femur is doing, driving sideways, but usually it is. Okay, whereas we see with Avery, the foot is down and then he just wants to turn here. So long story short, I like to see Avery become less concerned with spinning the leg and more concerned with driving with the back foot. It would be like pitching without driving towards your target and just spinning your foot at the rubber. You're not going to create, you could throw that way, but you're not going to create speed or quickness. Okay, and with Avery's foot, you can see how it's basically just turning in the same spot. Okay, so there's no driving aspect with that back leg. Okay, and so we'll get to the front side in a second in detail, but really his hips are opened. When this foot lands, the hips are open, and this is the same way for everybody, but the hips are open with that front leg pushing the hips open from the front. Okay. Same thing's happening with Adrian, but Adrian has gotten a contribution, a driving aspect from his back leg that really powers the opening, whereas Avery's doing it primarily with just the front leg. The front leg lands, and then it's driven open by the front. In other words, that spinning back foot is not going to create force against the ground. It's being all done by his front leg. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the front side here. We'll start with the foot and work our way up. Again with Avery stride, the biggest issue is that the foot goes straight out immediately. Okay, you really see him really bailing out and bailing open there. When we land, we want the feet should be parallel, working straight ahead, and the toes should be even here. Okay, they really shouldn't be offset, and if they are, not by much. We really don't ever want to see a foot bailing out, bailing open to that degree. So I do think it's something that Avery should try to address. Try to square up with that front foot. In other words, it starts bent and square. His foot should really land here, even with the back one, toes straight ahead, right there. Okay, so it really should land the same way that it starts. Begins bent and square, it's going to land bent and square. And you really want to feel like the back leg kind of pulls it up, and then the back leg unloads to put it down. Okay, we don't really want to feel like that front leg is opening up to the ball to begin our swing. Okay, all right, working the way up. Again, I don't think he's getting enough out of the back leg, and as we've seen with some of the other guys, when the back leg doesn't go, the muscles of the upper half start too soon, and they begin to use the muscles of the upper more than they really ought to. And we always tend to see, anytime that back leg doesn't contribute and the upper begins to try to work too hard, we always wind up seeing a posture like this instead of a posture like this one. We go here and here, a cleaner line. So if the back leg contributes more, then we would get more tilt and less turn out of the upper body. We'll hit from a more leveraged position, behind the front side. Okay. Also, if the upper is being used too much and too soon, the hands will tend to kind of be rushed out front, away from us, making it a little tougher to adjust on breaking balls. The chest, tends to turn too much. Here you can see at contact, we're still seeing, his jersey here, whereas Avery's really opening up here. So, Avery's really using, primarily, obviously, his front leg, but he's really having to use more upper body than he should because the footwork of his stride, the back leg's not driving enough. Okay. Now, Avery makes good contact. He always puts the ball in play. Great hand-eye coordination. A good athlete. But the mechanics aren't as efficient and as effective as they could be. Okay. So out of the upper, we want, a better back leg is going to allow us to create more tilt and less turn out of that upper body. You can see how much back we're seeing here compared to that. And we really don't want to feel like our arms are, especially, kind of the lead arm is pulling that bat around in a circle. If you take a look at Adrian's lead arm, it gets to a point here right after contact, and really that right arm kind of throws past it. The left arm is still basically in the same place it was in. So there's a bracing effect, kind of like cracking a whip. That lead arm gets to a point here, okay, it braces up, and then that right hand is thrown past. So we don't want to feel like, we're pulling that arm in a circle around there. We want to, feel the hand snap, right through the ball here. We don't want to feel like, we're pulling it through with our arms. We want to hit it with our hands, not our arms. Okay, let's take a look now at the third and final area, the back arm, and really what we want to get out of the back arm is the perfect throwing pattern, for a hitter. And really what we want to see is that the throw begin with the long bone in the upper arm, the humerus, basically lifting and internally rotating here. Okay, long bone lifts and turns in, okay, which is going to bring the elbow up. Okay, so the elbow works up, stays very bent, then the elbow, similar to the way an infielder would take the ball out of the glove. Right here, out of the glove, the elbow stays bent and slots to the ball, and then the throw is finished just like an infielder throwing a ball across the infielder, across the infield. That arm whips out into extension and pronates through release. Okay, right hand turns over the top through release. Okay, the throwing hand pronates on all throws. Okay, regardless whether you're pitching or playing shortstop. And for the sidearm throw, that means the top hand pronation means the top hand getting over the top. Okay, so we want to see a fluid throwing motion. The elbow works up, the elbow stays bent and works to the ball, and then at this point it's going to whip out, contact, and pronate through contact. Okay, taking a look here at Avery, and again we're really focused on, you know, what is the back arm doing. We don't really see that back arm kind of wind up into a throwing movement, you know, like you see the very best do. And again, we're comparing a 12-year-old kid to one of the best swings of all time, so we're going to see some differences. But the arm doesn't really work its way up. It kind of stays here. If you look at the humerus, it stays there. And then at this point here, we see it widen just a bit. Now, it's going to slot to the ball. Everybody's going to slot to the ball. And his bat's in a pretty good position here, meaning, you know, our elbow's still pretty bent here. And that bat is stacked above our hands. So he does a good job of keeping the barrel up and above the hands, which keeps it in a light position, and this is a good position from which to launch the bat at the ball. So even though the back arm didn't really, you know, provide that good loading action, we still do have the bat in a good position. Now, it'd be like, you know, not really kind of lifting your elbow as you take the ball out of the glove. You're not going to have quite the amount of energy behind the throw to get started, but he is in a good position in that the barrel stays above the hands here as we trace it through there. Again, that bat's in a really good position here, barrel above hands, very similar there. We want to keep that barrel above the hands for as long as possible. Again, as we look at the finish of the throw, and we saw this obviously when we look at the lead arm, how the arms kind of continue around in the circle and the hands don't really finish until, you know, much later around the corner. So we'd really like to see that right hand contact and pronate, you know, finish the throw through contact instead of kind of continuing to pull the bat around. Okay, so, you know, overall in the back arm, we'd like to see a little more winding up, a little more throwing action to start it. He does keep that bat up here. And again, obviously the hand is controlling where the barrel is. His hand stays out towards the pitcher as the elbow slots. So he's got a real good position, a light position from which to launch from. And then we'd like to see a little bit more throwing action through contact with that hand pronating through. Again, Avery, you know, very good athlete. You know, he puts the ball in play, good hand-eye coordination. But I think he could get greater bat speed with less effort if he would employ some more throw-like mechanics in what he's doing.